Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about the Switch 2. It's finally here. We're so excited. We're going to talk about our experiences.
Finally here. It's the next generation.
Yep. We're going to talk about that. We also got some news stories to go over, some trailers. Not E3 happened this last week, so there's a lot of trailers to go over there. And a few other trailers that just happened to slip out around the same time that were pretty big that we're going to talk about. And then a few news stories. One of them kind of relevant, the other one just kind of really interesting. But that's where we're going to start.
I love Nintendo just casually drops a brand new system during
E3, yeah.
during like the E3 time.
Yeah. Completely took over all conversation. So, we're not going to have an On the Horizon segment this week. When I put it together, I realized there are only like 2 things on there, and I just decided to cut it. So this week, we're going to jump straight into On Beat.
On Beat.
This week on Beat, which is our news segment, our first story is that Nintendo Switch 2 has sold 3.5 million units in 4 days, making it the fastest selling console ever.
Yes, and this is like all consoles, although Nintendo's press release only references fast selling Nintendo console ever. It's been verified that this applies to every console launch.
Yeah, the numbers are not directly comparable, so it's like hard to you can't say with like absolute certainty, but it's pretty clear that it's the case. Like
basically, the metric we got is from Nintendo, and it's the only metric we got is 3.5 million in 4 days. So we can only measure that based on how fast the other consoles got to 3.5 million, which was not 4 days.
Yeah, but for example, the previous fastest selling console of all time was the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation...
I think it was actually the PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 actually beat it.
Okay,
PS4.
It was like 1 million units, I believe, in 1 day. But
yes.
Then the next record they had was for like after a month. So you can't... So there is like a comparison, and the month one was like, I think 4.5 million or something, but that was after a month, and this is obviously only 4 days for the Switch.
The thing about sales is, and it gets even trickier when you talk about Microsoft doesn't like to announce sales numbers. They
because they're low?
Because they're low, yeah. So you can't the thing about sales numbers is they're funny. We don't have 100% accurate numbers because
and even when we have pretty accurate numbers, they're not like directly comparable. Like they're not directly like this is for 3 days and this is for 3 days. It's like
yeah, because companies like to cherry pick and like to pick out the best sounding numbers that they can when they announce these things.
Also, something you and I talked about before we started the podcast that needs to be addressed is that I firmly believe that any major video game system, so not like Ouya, not like Steam Deck, but like Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, the original Switch, the Wii, whatever, any major video game system would sell 3.5 million in 4 days if they had the stock to do it.
Yes, I think we gotta congratulate Nintendo on really doing a good job managing stock and not having shortages, because shortages are an all too common thing of launches. There were reports that people were able to walk into Best Buy, Target, Walmart, wherever, and they still saw units sitting on the shelf, which lame people tried to point out as, oh, that's a sign of failure. No, the stock level was that good.
Yeah.
That you could legitimately walk into a store on launch day and still have a chance to get one.
It's funny because we've criticized Nintendo for some of the decisions about this launch. Like when they did the Direct and they didn't have any prices listed in the Direct. And then the prices kind of slowly streamed out with information, which caused a lot of misinformation. And we criticized a lot of that. There was a lot of things that Nintendo just kind of flubbed about this launch.
Nintendo has been Nintendo's communication has been less than desirable, and it's led to a lot of misinformation, a lot of angst, and just given a lot of people room to really set very negative narratives around Nintendo and what they're doing.
And Nintendo deserves negative criticism for being so bad about getting that information out there.
Yeah.
Because that's part of their job. And they
shouldn't
failed
have
there.
been like right after the Direct when all the information about the games went up online. Nintendo Switch 2 website went up online. We started learning the prices of everything. It was revealed Mario Kart World was an $80 game. And then there was something based off European pricing or whatever. We're like, oh, it's $80 physical, but it's $90 on the eShop. And I was like, that makes no sense. That sounds insane. And I had to spend 10 minutes trying to verify it, trying to find any other source except for an image that showed euros.
Meanwhile, people that were streaming the Direct were reporting that information as fact.
Yeah, as fact.
And it took like a week before people realized that Mario Kart World wasn't $90.
Yes.
And that's just bad on Nintendo's part. That's just crap.
That was
just did a
horrible.
bad job.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah, so like it's interesting because before this we've had a lot of criticism about the things that Nintendo did badly with this launch. But you and I were both in the camp of saying that this was going to be a very successful launch because the excitement that was there, the hype was there. You could feel it. It was palpable. It was in the air.
And there was the hype was there. There was like so much ridiculous FUD being thrown around. One YouTuber said, oh, people are going to be confused by the box. Oh, it's red and it's a Switch. I'm like, nobody is going to be confused. Like, that's just ridiculous.
The thing that he failed to note is that I don't know of any store that would let you take something that expensive to self-checkout.
Right, yeah. You're not, nobody.
So like, what employee is going to watch somebody walk up on launch day, grab a Switch OLED or something, and buy it without saying, that's not the Switch 2, right?
Right, yeah. That's not what you're intending to buy.
That's not the experience that like anyone's going to have.
No. I know there's a lot of stories of like dumb people that you encounter in retail. I've encountered them. I've worked retail in electronics department for the biggest retailer in the country for almost a decade. I've never once encountered somebody who was confused about a box, confused about what console they were buying because of that. Like that literally has
in Rohrig Hut.
Yeah, that has literally never happened to me. I know that's anecdotal, but like still, it seemed like the most unlikely thing.
I mean, when you look at it at a glance, you can go like, oh, they might have a point or something. But when you really think about all the logistics of getting a system and having to pass through the hands of somebody selling it to you and all these other things, at some point, something is going to break that chain of events.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's just too many things, too many variables, that would stop a mistake like that from happening. And if it did happen, it would be like a very rare occurrence. It's not something that would be a very commonplace mistake. But
congrats to Nintendo. It's a very good number regardless. The real story is going to be how it continues to sell. Where are the sales going to look like a month from now? Where are they going to look like going once we're in the holiday season? If they can maintain momentum, which I think they will. And I mean, the key to maintaining this kind of momentum is just to get games out there. Keep releasing games. Keep having new games coming. Nintendo looks like they're set to do that. I don't think they're going to have an issue.
Yeah.
But that's the real story. That's what's really going to tell the health of the system versus like, oh, we just sold 3.5 million. Like, that's great. But if they sell like 3.5 million in 4 days and the sales crater, they fall off a cliff the next day, like they sell 1 unit next month, like that's not good. So,
hey, I had trouble getting a Wii U at launch.
Yeah, exactly. They got momentum. They have to keep the enthusiasm. They have to keep the momentum going.
Yeah. I think the real success, I just mentioned Wii U, that's going to be the real vindicating point of success because a lot of people keep throwing that back at Nintendo's face like, oh, this is going to be the Wii U again. So the real number is going to be when does it pass the number that Wii U had for its lifetime?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to do that like in 1 year? Are we going to get like 1 year done and we're already going to be past Wii U? And if that's the case, then that like ends that narrative.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm looking at Nintendo's software lineup for the rest of the year. We got a new Donkey Kong next month. We got a new Pokemon game in October. We got a new Metroid game coming. I think Nintendo has a very strong game lineup to where they should have no problem keeping this enthusiasm, keeping this momentum going.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. And they launched with the biggest mega franchise they have, so that's like going to be an evergreen that's selling for years.
Oh, absolutely.
No issue. I mean, Mario Kart 8 is still, I think, in the top 10 every year.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with that. But that's the news for Nintendo Switch 2 sales. Our next piece of news, our last piece of news before we're getting into all the trailers, is that Robbert Eggers, the director of Nosferatu, The Witch, The Northman, The Lighthouse, is set to write and direct A Christmas Carol with Willem Dafoe as his pick for Scrooge.
Which, fantastic pick for Scrooge. I am ridiculously excited about this. I want to see Robbert Eggers' take on A Christmas Story. Is it going to be horror? Is it going to be more of a drama? I don't know.
I think it's a good fit for Eggers because it's very period specific, which is very Eggers, and it's very in Eggers' wheelhouse of periods. It's that's his ideal time.
It's his idea. It's the Victorian era, and it's a supernatural period piece.
With loads of lore.
Yes.
Which is a big part of Eggers too. And then also, on top of all of that, Christmas Carol from the very beginning has had a horror element to it without actually being horror. And I think that also kind of fits into Eggers' mold. His stuff isn't meant to be horror in the way that A Nightmare on Elm Street is or something like that. It's not like a slasher. It's horror, but it's this gothic kind of horror. And it always kind of had that in A Christmas Carol. And you could see that being strengthened through Eggers. Exaggerated, made bigger.
Oh yeah, this totally makes sense for him.
Yeah.
I'm interested.
We should note that this could also go off the rails at any point.
Yes.
This is very early announcement that this is happening. It's in development, so it could fall apart at some point in pre-production. He also has 2 other projects he's attached to. He's got Werewolf, which is something he's been heavily working on, and then Labyrinth, which he's been attached to for a while.
Yeah, I mean, this could be Eggers' Del Toro era, where he's announced to be attached to all these projects, and 90% of them don't ever happen.
Remember when Del Toro was attached for The Hobbit?
I remember that, yeah.
But it's crazy. Robbert Eggers is a great pick. It's very fitting. It'll be interesting to see.
All right. Well, let's get to these trailers.
Yeah, let's move on to the trailers now. We're going to start off with our non-gaming trailers because not E3 happened, so we have a lot of gaming trailers. But first, we got Alien Earth, our first real trailer of Alien Earth. We got a lot of stuff here. We're seeing some scientific experiments. We're seeing some xenomorphs already.
Xenomorphs. We're getting we're getting the xenomorphs teased. We're meeting our main character, a girl who was dying and had her mind transferred to the synthetic body.
She's like a bishop.
Yeah, she's like a bishop.
But with a human mind.
Yes. And the idea is this research ship crashed on Earth, and they had all kinds of alien specimens on them, including the most famous one from this franchise, and they're investigating it.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a lot of fun. It's Noah Hawley. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Noah Hawley's such a weird pick for Alien. I'm excited for it because I'm excited about anything that he does.
It's got
he's such this. He's got this more comic element usually to his works. I mean, even his more serious stuff. So it's is this going to be weird? Is this going to be but watching the trailer, it looks pretty straightforward, but it just looks really good. Like you said, Timothy Oliphant's in it. That's going to be great as well.
Yes.
I'm really excited to see what we get with that. Next trailer, we got probably the best trailer yet for Superman.
Oh yeah. I love this trailer because we saw some more character interactions, but also this trailer is framed from Lex Luthor's perspective.
Yeah,
which is
at least the beginning of it is, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that. We got to see, the scene, which we've seen bits and pieces of in our trailers, of Lex Luthor, invading the Fortress of Solitude with the Engineer and, with his other goons, Ultraman and stuff. We got to see more of that scene.
I think it's so interesting that Lex Luthor is just dripping in vitriol.
Yes.
He is just angry and hateful.
He's I'll kill that reporter that always does interviews with you. The people who raised you on Earth, I'll kill them too.
Yeah.
It's
just dripping with vitriol. And it's okay, yeah, they're setting that up really well. And yet, what we keep hearing about this is that it's a movie about hope, and that what we're seeing when we're seeing Superman is him being this very positive force. So you have this great negativity and a serious threat in Lex Luthor. He's not being played comically at all. He's not being played fumbling it all. He's being played as very competent and very threatening. And yet it's still a movie about hope, and it's still a movie in which Superman is Superman. He's still like the Boy Scout.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved when we got past that stuff too, where we got to see team interactions between like Superman. We got, Superman versus Green Lantern, and we got a moment with Superman and Mr. Terrific. I thought that was a pretty funny little quick scene.
Yes.
He's like, are you done? We need to get moving or something. And Superman's like, I'm doing important stuff here.
Yeah. He's like winded.
We even got to see some really cool, like, kind of fight scene stuff, like Superman doing this kind of spin in the air with his laser vision. It's like, that was really cool. Crypto fighting by his side.
Got to see we got to see some awesome stuff. I'm more excited for this movie than probably anything else coming out this year.
I don't know if I'm more excited for this or Fantastic Four.
They both look so good.
I'm excited for both of them so much, but this trailer in particular for Superman, I'm so hyped. This is like the best trailer for Superman by far, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So let's move on to our game trailers. We're going to start things off. We're going to go like kind of event by event. We're going to start things off with State of Play, Sony's event, which was very strong. It looks like Sony finally picked up the Nintendo playbook.
Yeah.
And Nintendo's playbook for directs and events has always just been, just keep it coming, go fast.
Go
Don't
fast.
dwell on anything for too long, just keep it moving. And we always lamented about how, like, nobody fucking got that. Like, how come Nintendo's the only company that gets that? Looks like Sony finally picked up the Nintendo playbook. And it was just trailer to trailer to trailer. None of the trailers were like 10 minutes long, none of that garbage. No. They were all like quick, got to the point, good stuff. And there was a good diversity of stuff that they showed.
There's good diversity of stuff. For me, personally, like, all of it was bangers. I was, like, crazy, because practically, like, everything was, oh shit, I want that.
It's
like,
funny because
I couldn't believe it.
Sony nailed it with, like, the speed and the presentation. I think Xbox nailed it maybe even better than Sony with, like, game diversity.
Yes. Xbox definitely had more game diversity.
And then Summer Game Fest just fell flat on its face.
Summer Game Fest was, like, it was a lot of free-to-play and live service games, which I just don't care about. And then they had that awful Splitgate presentation with that dude in the Make FPS Great Again hat, which was probably the low point of any of these presentations.
Yeah. He's talking shit about Call of Duty, which, by the way, I'm also not a fan of, so I'm not getting on his case for that. But talk shit about Call of Duty and then presented his Battle Royale free-to-play game.
Like the most generic-looking thing in the world.
Yeah.
Radioactive started playing. I was like, ugh.
But let's get back to Sony. Let's talk about the games that Sony showed. We've narrowed it down from a bunch to four. The four key games we want to talk about.
This was like the most difficult thing for me to narrow down because there was like so much I thought was just amazing at the show. But yeah, I think this is like the best of the best in my opinion.
The best or the most interesting to talk about.
Yeah, yes.
So we're going to start off with a game that's the sequel, or I guess prequel, to a game that you and I both loved, and that is Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement.
Yes, this is the prequel, like the brand new prequel to Bloodstained, which was the spiritual successor to the Castlevania games made by Koji Igarashi. I'm not gonna lie, this trailer directly followed the trailer for Silent Hill If, and my first thought was, because I was thinking Konami, so I was like, oh shit, this is Castlevania. They're actually announcing it. This is happening. It's like, oh no, it's Bloodstained.
What's interesting here is that this game, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Bloodstained had like 3D cutscenes.
No,
like the whole thing was presented 2D.
That's what was, the whole thing was 2D in Bloodstained. That's what was throwing me with this trailer. That's what threw me off of like Bloodstained, because it had like the 3D cutscene trailers. It didn't look like Bloodstained, so I was like, oh shit, this is Castlevania for sure. I was like, no. Bloodstained, it's Castlevania adjacent. It's interesting because apparently there's two protagonists, so it looks like it's going to be using the dual protagonist system from Portrait of Ruin. Again, like Igarashi going back to his greatest hits. And it looks fun. I'm down for it.
Yeah, it looks really good. Did we get any, I mean, this was from Sony State of Play. Did we get any announcement or any confirmation later about if this is coming to other systems or what other systems?
Bloodstained's not exclusive. It's PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
Okay. And we'll probably get a Switch 2 announcement, I'm sure.
On their Twitter, they said we have nothing to announce regarding Switch 2, so.
Yeah, we might get it later. Romeo is a Deadman, that's the next game. Suda 51.
Yep, Suda 51. Trailer came on, and at first I was like, huh? And then I said, this is a Suda 51-ass game, if I ever saw one. And boy, was that, like, spot on. Boy, was I not wrong at that guess.
Yeah.
Again, this is like just his like gonzo style. Like, it's a dude, he gets bit by a zombie and I guess like turns into an undead man, but instead of like being fully zombified, they pump him with drugs, they put like some technology on him, and he turns into a superhero.
Yeah.
Because sure. Because Suda.
There's all sorts of like weird little mundane things you do in the game too, which is like a specialty of Suda51. You played like No More Heroes, you can like mow lawns and do stuff. And there seem to be like real quick cuts of like little mundane tasks that look kind of funny and unique in there and stuff. So it's like, it just, yeah, it looks like a Suda51 game. Particularly, it looks a lot like a No More Heroes type game.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm excited for this. I really hope this comes to Switch too. I don't think anything that was shown was specifically announced for coming to Switch 2. But I think a lot of that's just because everyone's revealing their Nintendo stuff at Nintendo events.
Yeah, so Romeo, I looked it up. Romeo is Deadman is currently confirmed for PS5, Xbox, and PC.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be a Switch 2 version in the future. But one of the big themes of this not E3 was the conspicuous absence of Switch 2 logos in like literally everything practically. Some games were announced for Switch 1, but not Switch 2.
I think part of releasing things on Switch or on like Nintendo systems now in general, which is kind of like a more recent thing with the Switch era, is that everybody just goes through the pipeline of revealing and showing in a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, I think so.
And even if it's something, and this has happened before, even with Switch 1, this has happened where a game was announced for everything but Switch. And then it also came out on Switch, sometimes day and date with the other things, but they didn't announce the Switch version until a Nintendo Direct.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So I'm hoping that these first two we talked about both pop up in a Nintendo Direct, because especially Romeo's a Deadman. Both of them really, I really want to play, but I'm a huge Suda fan, so I need that on my Switch too. Next game is Pragmata. This is a game that was announced ages ago and then just disappeared without a single word.
Yeah, it looked like
and then out of nowhere it's back.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be shovelware. It had like an interesting CG trailer where it was revealed, but again, we didn't know much about it. Now it's coming back. It's coming out next year. We got a gameplay trailer. We got to see some gameplay, and we got to have the gameplay explained, have more of the plot explained. You are an astronaut. You're trapped on a space station on the moon, and apparently it's been overrun by corrupt, virus-ridden machines. And you have like a little girl with you who's like really a robot. So she's a machine, but she's on your side, and she's like kind of like helping you fend off like these machines, and
she's kind of hanging on your back as you move around.
Yeah, she's hanging in. Yeah, exactly. It looks interesting. It's a single player game. It's not co-op. Mm-hmm. You're not like two players controlling, but it looks interesting gameplay wise. It's got like a shooter vibe because like she like hangs on your back and she shoots like these pulses like out of her hand at enemies and stuff. It looks a lot of fun. Graphics are gorgeous. I'm excited for it. This is the first new IP from Capcom in a while. So, I'm interested.
Next up, we got Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls.
This is so high. I cannot believe this.
So you got another Marvel fighting game.
Yes.
Not from Capcom.
No, not from Capcom.
Arc System Works.
So the trailer came on and said PlayStation Studios. And I said, okay, this is a first-party game. Sure. I said Arc System Works. I said, oh, okay. Arc System Works making a PlayStation game. And then I saw, it's like drawing things on the screen, like Sketchbook. I saw Captain America's shield. And I'm like, hold up. What is happening? Oh, Arc System Works is making a Marvel fighting game. Oh.
4v4.
Yeah, 4v4. It's crazy. The graphics look amazing. It's Arc System Works like signature cartoony style, animated style, which I think looks so well in their fighting games. I think it looks amazing here.
Especially with some of the more like oddball Marvel characters like Rocket and stuff like that.
Yes.
You're really gonna get that kind of, that animation fluidity is gonna add a lot to it.
Yeah, exactly. I wish this was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I mean, this looks like the game like I actually wanted. It's not Marvel, it's just Marvel, obviously, but I mean, the character designs are great. The way they redesigned Iron Man to resemble more of a Japanese mecha was like really, really genius.
Alright, and so we're gonna move on now to Summer Games Fest, the most boring show of the bunch. The longest and most boring show with the least titles to care about.
Yes, but they had one big title that I care about, and I guess you want to talk about something, that's fine.
Well, we want to do a special call out because one of the only listeners of our podcast is a big fan of VR, and we were chatting with him as we watched this event, and he was super excited for Deadpool VR, which was announced. Neil Patrick Harris is going to be doing the voice of Deadpool. At first I just thought it was Ryan Reynolds. He was like basically channeling Ryan Reynolds' like cadence.
Right,
when
yeah,
he was
he's doing
his
his
stuff.
best Ryan Reynolds impression.
But then it turns out it's Neil Patrick Harris that's doing it. Not only did we get this game coming out looks like it's gonna be kind of a funny, more MCU, or not MCU, it's more Marvel movie take on Deadpool than like the last Deadpool game, which was kind of a little bit different. So it kind of fits in more with that style that we're more used to with the Deadpool movies and stuff. And yeah, so it looks good, and we got like a funny response video from Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Where he was, mocking Doogie Howser. So, looks good all around, and I'm happy for our one confirmed listener
But
that
next
he's
we
getting
have,
a game he loves. But the big game that you were excited for.
yeah, the big game that they announced. They did a troll earlier where they had like the producer of Resident Evil like come on and say, "Oh, we're working on it. We have nothing to announce at this time, but just wait. It'll be in a blink of an eye. It'll be here."
There was like
And
a
I'm
double
like,
troll because before that they had a video and it was just for a sale of Resident Evil games.
Yes, yeah, they did that. And I was like, and with like how I was not enjoying the show up to that point, like that stung. Like that was like, oh, okay. All right. Well, fine. And then they trolled because like that was the last reveal of the show. And I was like, oh, you bastards. I mean, it looks amazing. They're doing deep lore with this one because like the protagonist is the daughter of the woman from Resident Evil Outbreak, which I did not play the Outbreak games because they were like online only games for the PS2 and I did not have my PS2 connected to the internet.
Wasn't it supposed to be like a Code Veronica connection or something?
It's an Outbreak connection.
Okay.
And anyway, we're going back to Raccoon City, which is pretty big because we're going back to Raccoon City after it was nuked at the end of like Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So that's what the big impact crater was. And so we're going to like post-nuclear Raccoon City in this. It's interesting. They released a few more details today. There was like a hands-on apparently. Apparently like the last two games were exclusively first person, but this one you can switch between first and third person viewpoints on the fly, which I am super happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited. Capcom's gonna have a freaking amazing 2026. I should note they also showed Onimusha, the new one from Capcom. That looked amazing too. I mean, that's also coming next year. Capcom is like stacked for next year. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then we go to the Xbox Game Showcase. This one kind of surprised me. I didn't expect them to have as good of games and also as good of a pacing where they had like a pretty huge variety of different types of games. And they kind of like spread them out really well. Like they did a good job of not kind of like lingering on one type of game for too long. They were kind of jumping back and forth between different styles, keeping it fresh and interesting. As an overall show, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so too. I couldn't really like watch it or pay much attention to it because I was working at the time this was happening. So like it was kind of like my attention was divided. But I watched like most of the trailers like after the fact too. So
we got 3 games we're going to be talking about from that. First, we have The Blood of the Dawnwalker, which is the one that's being made by former Witcher 3 devs, not CD Projekt Red, but a new company that started up from some people that were working at CD Projekt Red and have now offshoot to this. And so it's basically a WRPG in the Witcher style, but it's about like a vampire society in which vampires are ruling over humans. They're not necessarily like killing them. It's not like a horror game, like outright. They're more just like treating them like cattle that they rule over. And it looks like your protagonist is basically like a daywalker. They call it a Dawnwalker, but same thing. He's Blade.
Yeah, he's Blade. you play as Blade. Looked awesome. I am super down for a vampire WRPG the style of Witcher. Like I'm all for that. Let's do it.
With that Witcher style like lore, so I'm sure it's gonna have like great side quests and stuff too. So you're gonna get really immersed into this world. It's gonna feel like a real place because that's kind of what CDPR is good at.
Right? Yeah,
And,
exactly.
This isn't CDPR, but it's CDPR people. So. Next, we got Beast of Reincarnation, a game that proves once and for all that Game Freak is straight up robbing Nintendo.
Were you surprised when you saw the Game Freak logo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially considering the game actually looked like competent and didn't look like a pile of shit that was rubbed onto my boot, you know?
Yeah, this looked amazing. I can't believe it. Like, this looked incredible. Apparently, it's a Souls-like. So, like, if you don't like Souls games, probably not gonna like this. But it looked like it had, like, an interesting setup, like an interesting lore to it. The action looked pretty fast-paced. This is also coming to PlayStation and PC, so it's not just Xbox exclusive. It looked amazing. It looked stunning. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll come to Switch too, but it'll look like fucking, like Cubivore.
It'll look like Cubivore when it comes to Switch 2, yeah.
And that's not a hit on Switch 2, that's a hit on Game Freak. So, apparently they can't make a game of, like, DS graphics quality on a Switch, but they could make this on PS5. I'm not bitter. Well, I don't care about Pokemon, so I'm not really bitter. I just think it's kind of, like, almost laughable how much shit they get for how fucking incompetent they were with, like, their Switch Pokemon games, and then they turn around and do this. It's like, okay, clearly robbing Nintendo at this point.
Development of this is probably, like, outsourced, too. There's probably, like, a studio or something working on this. Like, similar to having Monolith Soft come in and pitch in on Mario Kart, you know?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, they should have Monolith Soft pitching on the next Pokemon game, like, apparently.
No, they shouldn't have Monolith Soft waste their talents on that. They could, it's fine. Monolith Soft has a studio that only does that, so it wouldn't really be wasting their talents.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last game from the Xbox showcase that we're going to talk about is Clockwork Revolution. It looks really funny.
It looks funny.
You know what I took away the most from it? And I think this is the case, but I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like it's the case. It seems like the character creator is built into the story.
It does, don't it?
Like, this guy is telling a police robot, I guess, about who robbed him, and then it's going through the details of his thing, and I'm like, that's the fucking character creator.
That's the character
creator. He's going to be
talking
about the traits as you're, like, picking them.
Yeah, that's how you make your character. Good call on that. Now, this one resonate with me because, like, it looks like a combination of the immersive sims you've seen, like Prey or Dishonored, and, like, Bioshock. I got, like, a lot of Bioshock vibes
from this. Yeah, it's a heavy Bioshock vibe. Like, who's making this? Do you know, or?
In Exile Entertainment. They're, like, a big publisher of PC WRPGs. So it's interesting because, like, yeah, they did the Wasteland games. Stuff like Wasteland and the Bard's Tale, which Clockwork Revolution doesn't look like an RPG.
Than that.
It doesn't look like an RPG. It looks like a Bioshock, which I'm fine with. I loved Bioshock. I mean, that franchise is apparently dead forever, so I'll take similar games.
Isn't Ken Levine doing something similar, though? Like a spiritual successor?
I think he is, yeah. But who knows when that's ever coming out, though.
But yeah, this looked good. It looked like it had a good sense of humor to it. I love the style. It's kind of steampunk, but you almost don't want to say steampunk. You almost want to call it like gear punk or something.
Yeah, like gear punk. Yeah, exactly. There wasn't like much steam in this trailer, but yeah.
There's a time travel mechanic that looks like it could be kind of interesting, especially like when it was showing it before, I'm like, oh, we've kind of seen these kind of like rewind type, or pause kind of, and bullet time. They always refer to like moments in games that play with time and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's impressive and it looks cool for gameplay and stuff, but it didn't really intrigue me that much. And then they started doing things that were more like narrative based with time travel, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's like where like the immersive sim elements come in, it looks like.
Yeah, that's when it got like more interesting to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So do we know what this is coming to? Is this an Xbox exclusive, or is this?
As of right now, this is just Xbox and PC.
Okay.
So yeah, this is like one of 3 exclusives they showed at the Xbox conference, so yeah.
Alright, but that's it for that, and then the last trailer we're going to talk about just kind of popped up randomly on the Nintendo Today app.
Yes.
Nintendo didn't have a direct this week like people had predicted, but they did release a 4-minute trailer that covered both an update for Splatoon 3 and a new game.
How much you want to bet the next Nintendo Direct's just going to be released directly on Nintendo Today?
Like a whole long direct, or you just they're going to release a bunch of separate videos?
No, like an actual 30-minute direct video, like on the Nintendo Today app.
Because there's the term Twitter Direct. Have you heard that? Where like they've talked about where Nintendo has released a bunch of stuff just on Twitter.
Nintendo
and they
clearly
just refer to it as a Twitter Direct. Like not Nintendo doesn't, but like fans.
Yeah,
do.
Yeah, fans do. Yeah. Oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, because Nintendo clearly wants you to be checking this app. Let's be real. Nintendo's like serious about check your Nintendo Today app every day.
This is the first thing that's actually like really interesting think they put on the app, though. Everything else has been kind of very supplementary material. And this is like the first thing
Zelda.
This is an announcement, you know?
Well, they announced the Zelda, like, release date, and then the delay on the Nintendo Today app.
Yeah.
As well. So, yeah. But, yeah, we're getting a new Splatoon for the Switch 2.
It's
an update
a spin-off.
to Splatoon 3.
So it's a spin-off. It's not like, this isn't Splatoon 4.
The first Splatoon spin-off, and they could have been more vague about it if they tried. Like, they showed gameplay footage, but it's hard to, like, tell from the footage they showed what the gameplay is.
It looks like there's some kind of survival element.
It looks like some kind it looks like it's a single-player game.
I don't think so. I think with the name Raiders, the fact that they showed a team, I think this is multiplayer, but it's like a raid game. It's like a different type of...
but they didn't show a team. They showed a player character, and they showed the Idol team from Splatoon 3. Big Cut is their name, which the Idol characters are never player characters in Splatoon.
But this isn't a numbered Splatoon game.
Right, yes. But they've never made the Idol characters playable. And it's interesting, if you go back to the other, like, single-player expansions for Splatoon, the single-player expansions have always heavily featured the idol characters and support roles. And it's interesting, too, because, like, in the trailer and on the tweet, Nintendo only ever references one player. They say, you are the mechanic. They never say, like, oh, do this with friends or, team up with whoever. They don't use that language.
I still think this is multiplayer just going by the name. It's called Splatoon Raiders.
Like I said, it could be because we don't know we don't know jack about this. This was, like, the most vague announcement, so, like, it still could be.
Apparently this game's been rated. It's, like, ESRB rated already, which means that it's coming soon.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what they're doing with this, but it's interesting. Somebody suggested, this is a mode for Splatoon 4 that they spun off into, like, its own game so that they can have more time to work on Splatoon 4.
Or it could be like Splatoon 2 had, like, a pretty big DLC, and this could have been maybe something that was going to be for Splatoon 3, and then they just decided to kind of carry it over to its own thing.
I don't know, but I'm interested in learning more. It's cool. It looks cool. And then we got an update for Splatoon 3, which is also cool. They gave it the typical Switch 2 upgrades that other games are getting. This is a Switch 2 edition
but not in name.
It's a free update, so it's not like a Switch 2 edition where.
But it's got all the stuff you'd expect from a Switch 2 edition. It's got new content. It's got a bunch of new weapons and stuff. It's got new arenas. And it has a complete overhaul of the visuals, like a remastering of the visuals and frame rate improvements. So it's basically like what you'd expect to get from a Switch 2 edition, but it's free.
Yeah, it's free. It's not a Switch 2 edition because it is free. You are not paying for it.
Yeah, and there's I think all the Switch 2 editions also are being released physical as well. As far as I've seen, they're all getting physical releases. And I don't think this is. I think this is just going to be an update.
Yeah, this is just an online update, so which is cool. I think I saw people saying, they didn't add, like, mouse support to this, which I think that's just because it's cross-playable on Switch 1. And
that's going to create an imbalance.
Yeah, they don't want to create an imbalance. Splatoon 4 will probably have mouse controls, because that's only going to be playable on Switch 2, so we'll probably have to wait till Splatoon 4 for that.
Yeah, or Raiders might have it. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Who knows? Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that is it for our On Beat segment, and now we're going to move on to On Tap. And this weekend on Tap, we are going to be talking about Nintendo Switch 2, our experiences with it, the games we've played so far, things that went right, things that went wrong, kind of the whole picture. So Switch 2 launched a week ago from today. Like, literally, this time last week, I was in line waiting for my Switch 2. I'll start my story there. I'll start with my experience, because your experience doesn't start till the next day.
Right.
So my experience started last Wednesday. We recorded our podcast on Tuesday, specifically so I could be in line at GameStop. And the first thing that happened was GameStop shenanigans. I got an email saying, oh, hey, you can join the festivities for the Switch 2 launch starting at 3 p.m., we're going to start distributing the systems at 9. I'd already pre-ordered my system. I paid it in full, did everything like that on pre-order day in April. And it says on the email for this, it says, oh, you also have the opportunity to pay off your system before you pick it up so that it's faster process. So you can like go in at 3 or whatever with the festivities, and then you can also pay off your Switch and whatever, all this stuff. So I get to the store at 8 o'clock and I find out that everybody who came in at 3 was given a number for their place in line, which I did not get. I never got a number. Then they were like really vague about like, we should be able to get to you too. And then they closed and locked the store on the inside.
Oh, damn.
So I'm sitting in line going, okay, I don't even know if I'm getting my Switch now. Like, what's going on? I paid for it in full. Like, what is going on? Did they just redistribute all the pre-orders?
Yeah.
Like,
what
I had
happened?
no idea. There was like no communication on it. Then they finally came out right before they started selling the thing, and they were going through and they were having everybody reorder themselves in line based on the numbers that they had. And there were like a few of us that didn't have numbers. Like one guy I was sitting in line with right by me who also same situation. And so we were like kind of panicking the whole time as we're waiting. And then like a half hour after they started distributing the systems, that we found out a few things. One is that they were only letting one customer in the store at a time to get their pre-orders, and they were allocating 1 minute per customer. Now, if you go the number of people in front of us without numbers, there were 88. So I'm like, okay, so it's going to be 88 minutes before they get to us. And then I don't even know if we have them, because when we pre-ordered our systems, they said they had 50 bundles and 25 non-bundles. That's 75, not 88. So I'm like, what the hell? But apparently people that went in on that day at 3 p.m. were able to pre-order systems too, because they got more stock. So I'm just like in panic for like a couple hours as I'm waiting in line. And then it gets resolved, oh, you're getting it, but you have to be after the people that came after you in line. Well, then we had another snag because I got there at 8. The person that was sitting in line with me that I didn't know, but we got to talking at that thing, who was in the same boat as me, got there like right after I did. Neither of us had numbers. We both had paid our Switches outright. That's part of why we didn't show up at 3 for the festivity things to pay off our things, because we'd already done it. So why would we go back? Why would we wait in line 3 times for a system?
Right, exactly. That's dumb.
Yeah, so thankfully it all ended up working out, but, I didn't get my system and I didn't get home until like 11:30 or something.
Jeesh.
When they started selling at 9. So it took a while. It was a bit annoying, but it's like, okay, at least we got them. But like the lack of clarity was just really annoying. And the fact that GameStop bungled that so badly. If they were going to do it, give people assigned numbers, and they should have done that at the point that you paid off your system, which meant I should have had a very low number the second I paid it off in April.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
This is
They
bullshit.
messed it up.
Yeah, they really screwed it up. And that they just kind of naturally expected people to line up for the system 3 times. The day they pre-order it, then 3 p.m., and then come back later at 9. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. I agree.
Yeah, it just...
Absolutely.
They really flubbed that. So that was a really bad experience. But then I got home with my system, started getting everything set up. The setup process was a little bit annoying. Was it for you too? Like, I didn't know I was going to have to use the original charger and cable and everything for both the Switch and the Switch 2 to set them up. And I tried just plugging in. I had just like a portable charger with a USB-C cable, and I'm like, I was trying to do it from the couch. Like, I had both the systems there.
You know what I did?
I tried to plug it in, it didn't work.
You know what I did?
What?
When it said to plug in my Switch 2, I plugged in the Switch 2, went to the next step. When it said plug in Switch, I unplugged from Switch 2, plugged the cord into my Switch, went to the next step, and kept switching off, and it worked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been an issue because it didn't take that long.
It didn't take that, no. I mean, I get, like, they don't want, like, your system's battery dying before the process finishes, but I'm like, there's enough battery life on both these systems. They're not going to die during this process. I think the most interesting thing about that whole setup is that the Switch can recognize the difference between its AC adapter and just a USB-C cable. Yes, because, like, the USB-C cable I used to charge my iPhone, my Steam Deck, and my, like, Switch 1 at the same time. would not work with Switch 2. Switch 2 was like, oh, no, you need the charger that came out. I'm like, okay, fine. So I switched, I switched it out. I switched it out, and now I'm just using that for everything.
So I got through that whole process, got all my games set up, started all my downloads, and of course the downloads take forever, so I just put my system into sleep mode and went to bed.
Yeah, downloads take forever.
That was my plan. I wasn't planning on playing it that night anyways. I was planning on going to bed and playing it the next day. But that brings us up to you now, because you got your system before I woke up the next day. So
I got
chronologically...
So I got my system from Walmart online with Spark Delivery, which is the Spark driver, delivers it directly from the Walmart store. They're like Uber Eats. No, it's
Uber
like,
Eats or DoorDash.
It's like DoorDash.
But for
Walmart delivery, yeah. Which made me kind of nervous, because I was like, okay, what if the Spark driver just decides to steal it? Kind of nervous about that. But no, it arrived at 6:30 a.m., which is crazy. Like, I know, like...
You were already up?
No, I was not awake. I was sleeping. I woke up an hour later because I was kind of restless. And I legitimately thought I heard something outside on the porch. I legitimately thought I heard like a thump or something. I'm like, oh shit.
So you ran downstairs like a kid on Christmas morning.
It felt like Christmas morning. It felt exactly like Christmas morning. It was crazy. And it was like Christmas, too. It was like Santa, because Walmart didn't just give me a Switch 2. They gave me gifts. They gave me gifts of good tidings and joy.
I didn't get any extra shit. They promised a Red Bull, and I didn't even get that.
And Walmart didn't announce this. Nobody knew this was going to happen. But, like, I got a can of Pringles and a bottle of Coca-Cola.
Well, what flavor Pringles?
Pizza. I got the pizza Pringles, yeah. And I got standard Coca-Cola.
And you were like, trash, this isn't Mountain Dew.
Yeah, exactly. This is Mountain Dew, this is garbage. Instead of like Mountain Dew and Doritos, it's Coke and Pringles.
So you drove to Miyamoto's house, you drove across the ocean, shook up the bottle and sprayed it right in his face and said, next time give me Mountain Dew, asshole.
It's funny because like I picked up the package and it felt like a Switch, but then there was like this round cylinder in there and I was like I was like, what the hell is that? Is that like some kind of packaging? Just like extra support? Nothing like I'm familiar with. I'm just trying to I was like, what the hell? And I opened it up and it was Pringles.
So you got your stocking stuffers.
You open up the package, there was like a Walmart shopping bag with the stuff in it, with the Switch and like the Coke and the Pringles. I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. I thought that's neat. I will go ahead and have this stuff later because it's 7:30 in the morning. I don't feel like eating Pringles at 7:30 in the morning.
Then you immediately got Pringle dust into your controller and now you have Joy-Con drift.
Now I have like really bad Pringles Joy-Con drift. Yeah, but like I set up the console, like I spent forever trying to download stuff. I actually ended up docking my Switch 2 and connecting it to Ethernet to try and make the downloads go faster because I was trying to download Street Fighter 6 and it started saying, oh, this is going to take 10 hours. I'm like, what do you mean 10 hours? Oh, no, get this crap on Ethernet.
You mean you didn't buy Street Fighter 6, quote, physical, quote?
Oh, yeah, that would have been so much faster, having to check notes, download all that data. No.
You got kind of a staggered release with your games too, right? Because you didn't get them all in one bunch.
So I didn't have any of I had ordered Cyberpunk from Best Buy, and I ordered Mario Kart World from GameStop. Cyberpunk
when they said, who did you order your Switch 2 stuff from? You said yes.
Yes. So Cyberpunk was scheduled to arrive that day on the 5th. And it did. It just wasn't here when my Switch came because FedEx wasn't going to deliver at like 6:30 in the morning. They're not cool like Walmart is. So like Cyberpunk arrived like around 1:30 in the afternoon about that. So I got that then. Mario Kart World didn't arrive, even though I ordered it 2 weeks prior from GameStop in a desperate bid to get it on launch day. It got stuck in Houston, Texas, which apparently for USPS, they shipped it USPS. It got stuck in Houston, Texas. Apparently the processing centers in Texas are freaking horrible right now. They're like really slow. So this actually did not arrive until Monday.
Okay.
I ended up just going down to Walmart and getting a new copy of Mario Kart World from there the next day, like Friday, just because I was looking at the tracking at GameStop. I was like, this is on it. It was saying Saturday, but I hadn't left Texas. I'm like, this is horrible. This is like really bad. Like I ordered
And that was Best Buy that fucked that up?
No, it was GameStop. Best Buy was like
up.
primo. They delivered Cyberpunk on time.
Then you hopped on Amazon and ordered a voodoo doll to use on GameStop for the miserable experience they created.
For the miserable experience, yeah. So I got a copy of Mario Kart World on Friday, and then my second copy from GameStop arrived on Monday, so I got that. I gotta return it, although like Oh, God. I have to talk about this. So I went on GameStop's website to try and start a return, and their return feature, when I plug in the order number from my order page, we do not recognize any orders with that number. Please try again. I'm like, what do you mean? I plugged it in, like, retyped it like 500 times, and it just says, like, there's no orders with that number. And I'm like, oh, okay. There's no physical GameStop stores around me that I can actually return it to because they closed them all. Yeah. Literally, GameStop closed them all around me. So there's no physical GameStop store for me to return this to. Their stupid online return thing will not recognize me. I'm going insane. This is like $80. I want it back. I'm gonna have to call them. That's my rant about GameStop.
We both had rants about GameStop.
Yes, we did. We both had horrible Switch 2 experiences with GameStop in the end, so hooray!
Hey, that brings us to another topic. At least we didn't have the worst GameStop experiences with the Switch 2 that some others did from a specific location in New York.
Oh, yeah, yes. I heard stories of a GameStop. They were stapling receipts to the front of the Switch 2 boxes, and the staples were puncturing the screens.
I immediately looked at my box because my system had already been set up. I knew I didn't have that issue, but I immediately looked at my box to see, did they staple anything to it? And I had a sticker attached to it that, like, a receipt was then attached to the sticker. So there was no staple. It was just stuck onto the box. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, somebody stapled these on and wrecked the screens. And apparently that store had like almost 1,000 units, from what I heard, which means they wrecked.
So bad.
Say $450,000 of equipment.
Oh, yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad. My rating is like Walmart and Best Buy were the MVPs of this launch. GameStop was the worst. The amount of horror stories I've heard about GameStop and like my own experience and your experience should tell people do not shop at GameStop. They're bad.
Probably next system, if they're still around, I'm probably going to do it again just because I don't want to do the online. The online thing was such a bad experience, but we talked about that.
It was such a bad experience, but like
it
worked out beautifully for me in the end because like it was, once I got the order in, it was smooth sailing. And I got my console on time with like no fuss, no muss, no waiting in lines. So, you know, it was a nice smooth experience once I got that order in.
I didn't mind waiting in lines because it was fun to talk to people.
Yeah, it's fun to talk to like fellow enthusiasts. Yeah, you don't get that being like a hermit like me. That's for sure.
Yeah, so it was kind of fun to meet some people that were excited about Nintendo stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it definitely wasn't the best experience with all the uncertainty and stuff, but it ended up working out okay for me in the end. So you got things staggered. So what did you get and from who? Like, how did that happen? Your final count of things. How did that work out?
I mean, I got Cyberpunk for Best Buy. I only got 2 physical games, and they're the games that are, like, actually on physical cards. Mm-hmm. They're not, like, not...
Download codes or key cards, yeah.
Yeah, so I got Cyberpunk for Best Buy, and I got Mario Kart World. Ended up getting it from Walmart. I also got a copy from GameStop. I'm trying to get that sorted, like I said. So I got Mario Kart World ×2. And the rest is from the eShop. So from the eShop, I got $40 gift card. I got $50 eShop gift card from my sister for my birthday. So I used that to get Bravely Default. And then the leftover from that I used to get Welcome Tour. And then I bought Fast Fusion, and I bought Street Fighter 6. And those are like all my games.
I was all digital. So the Switch 2 bundle, which I got the bundle, you got the regular system that didn't include Mario Kart World because you wanted it physical. Yes. The bundle came with like a little piece of like card stock with like a decorated with Mario Kart stuff, and it had like a little scratcher, like a lottery ticket scratcher part. You could scratch it off and add a code.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
So I had that, and then I also bought, on day one before I went to sleep, I bought Cyberpunk 2077, which I'm triple dipping on, but I've already told that story. I bought Fast Fusion and Welcome Tour.
Nice. And
neither of us got any peripherals, right?
No peripherals. I don't see the need for peripherals at this time. I'll probably buy a Pro Controller and an SD card like down the road.
And you never need a camera since it just seems to work with almost all USB cameras.
Yeah, which is nice. They're not forcing you to buy a proprietary camera. So, it's just there for convenience for people who want to give Nintendo money for a camera.
It's so sad that third-party Piranha Plant one seems to be such a garbage camera because it's so cool.
Yeah, 420p. Yeah, I know. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
Maybe they'll make a higher resolution ones later.
Maybe.
That would be nice. I just wish Nintendo was like that. Yeah.
Hey, Nintendo was like, we're not going to officially license this if it's not as good as our camera. It's gotta be worse.
Yeah.
But no, it's good. I played plenty of Mario Kart World at this time. I played 2 hours of Cyberpunk 2077. I want to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 real quick, because, like, I think, like, that's a stress test for the Switch too, and, like, that's performance. Like, that is the game. If you watch any PC testing videos when, like, a new graphics card or when, like, a new CPU or something comes out and you're watching these, like, PC channels, they always use Cyberpunk to test performance, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like
it's like the benchmark
big
game.
tech showpiece game right now, yeah, for everything.
Yeah. So, like, they're no different here. This is, like, the benchmark for the Switch 2. And yes, it does not run as good as the game on a high-end PC. It does not run as good as the game on a PS5 or a PS5 Pro. But to be honest, just like playing this game, this is good enough. This feels nice. It feels fluid. It feels responsive. The graphics look nice. I don't feel like I'd be missing something if this was the best version available. Mm-hmm. I would be, like, perfectly fine with that.
So the first way I played Cyberpunk 2077, same with you, was on Stadia.
Yeah.
And Stadia, you could choose to play it in 4K 30, or you could play 1080p 60. So it's like you could choose performance or quality. I'd say visual quality-wise, this is like the performance mode, but frame rate is like the quality mode.
It's like a solid, like, what, 30 FPS?
It's not as good as the Stadia version, basically, as far as, like, visual fidelity and performance and stuff. But it's basically like taking the resolution. It's running at a higher resolution, but it's, like, upscaling to that resolution. Yeah. And then it's still running at, like, 30 instead of 60.
The caveat, I only played this in portable mode. I did not play this on my TV yet. So, like, I don't have any insight into, like, how this runs in dock mode. So, like, this is portable. I'd say, like, from what I've heard, I don't have Cyberpunk on PC, so I can't, like, test it. From what I heard, like, this runs much better on Switch portable mode than it does on Steam Deck.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So, like, portably, this is the best way to play Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
On the go. If you're looking, like, on the TV, you probably want to get this for the PS5 Pro, but, like, portably, this is the best version.
I think something that's interesting about Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch is how much they added in specific for the Switch. And I don't mean, like, there isn't, like, Bowser or something in the game. It's not like one of those. But they added in, like, gyro controls and different other types of motion stuff, which is interesting.
They replaced Atom Smasher with Bowser.
Yeah. Bowser Smasher.
Yeah, they have, like, motion controls, too. And there's, like, new trading segments, like, in the trading mode that's geared towards motion controls.
Yeah, I thought that was, like, really interesting because they've put it on systems that have motion controls and they didn't add any of that. So they really focused in on the Switch release and said, well, what makes this Nintendo system a Nintendo system? And they really, that's also why they put it on a physical cart, because they said that Nintendo fans are the type that like physical games, so we're going to actually do that. Well, everybody else is like, oh, just give us the cheap key card.
Yeah. And another thing noteworthy about this release, too, is unlike The Witcher 3 on Switch, was outsourced to a third-party studio.
Yeah, this was done CDPR.
This was done in-house at CD Projekt Red, which I thought was also, like, really cool. And this is, like, really tailored to the Switch 2 hardware. This is a version of a game that is tailored to the hardware in a way that ports usually aren't. So, like, it's really cool. And I was like, I'm really happy to, like, have that at launch, for sure.
This is surprising. I didn't expect there to be, like, the motion control stuff and the gyro control stuff. I didn't expect that there was an option to, like, increase the size of the HUD so that if you're playing on a portable screen, it looks clearer and easier to read it. I didn't expect any of that stuff. That shows a lot of attention and care. And like we've mentioned, they put it on a 64 gigabyte cart. Well, pretty much every other third party just said, oh, we'll just keycard everything.
Yeah, we'll keycard everything. Yeah, the full physical game, including the DLC expansion, Phantom Liberty, is on this cart.
And they had to compress that down a lot, because if you took, like, say, the PC version of
this is not
Cyberpunk,
64 gigs on PC or PS5, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's even down below 64, like the card 64, but they got it down to something like 58, I think. But the actual game on PC or PS4, PS5, whatever, with Phantom Liberty, the full thing, is something like 120 gigabytes. So this is like crazy amount of compression that they got it down, and it doesn't look bad.
No, it doesn't. It runs very well. It looks superb. Like
the textures aren't muddy and stuff. Like, it looks clean. Like, I mean, it doesn't look as good as like a PC running like path tracing and shit, obviously.
It never was. Yeah. no,
still
it
looks great. Yeah. Looks and runs great. And it's just, it's, you gotta give a lot of credit to CDPR for actually giving a shit. This is like almost every Nintendo launch since like, I guess the N64, that's when like third parties started being a bit more wary of Nintendo. Every Nintendo system launch has basically had like maybe one or two games where like a third party really fucking put in the effort, you know?
Oh yeah.
And like even the Wii U had it with like Zombie U on the Wii U.
And N64 did end up getting that with like the port of Resident Evil 2, which was kind of a miracle port because they took two discs.
That's the first time I ever heard the phrase like impossible port was the Resident Evil 2.
On N64, yeah.
Yeah.
And it really was.
But I'm talking about like at launch. Like N64, like their big third party game where the third party actually gave a shit would have been like Shadow of the Empire, you know, the Star Wars game. That was the one where like the developer actually gave a shit, you know? And then like you had something like Zombie U on Wii U, and you have like, there's always something like that, you know? And I didn't peg CDPR as the one to do that for the Switch 2, but they're the one that did that on the Switch 2.
Yep, really cool. I played some Fast Fusion. It's another game that's like really showing off the Switch hardware, what Switch 2 can do.
Is a really good, Shinnen's like Factor 5.
Yes.
They're like a company that really gets into the tech and really likes to kind of push things and play with like, even withered tech. Like they're like, what can we get out of this? So whenever Shinnen's got a game at launch, and they always do for a Nintendo system since like the Wii, basically. They always have like something, or not since the Wii, I guess.
Yeah, I think their Wii game came out. Yeah, since the Wii U. The Wii game, the Fast series started on the Wii, but that game was not available at launch.
They're like an eShop company, and we didn't have the eShop at launch.
Yeah, exactly.
But like they did it with Wii U, they had,
but they
they
actually started with
stuff
like
on that system at launch,
the GBA really, because that was like the first thing where they released the game towards the end of the GBA's lifespan. That was like super impressive, like 3D.
Yeah, I was doing like 3D shit, yeah.
Yeah.
On the GBA, yeah.
And that's where they got started, and then they just like supported like every other Nintendo console since then.
Yeah, they're very much a company like Factor 5. Factor 5 is the kind of company that they made their own like sound program. Like they made a program called MusiX, which was like a variant of MIDI that was like better. And they made like their own stuff. They made their own like FMV drivers so that they could fit things in a more compressed space and still look good. They just get into the tech and the nitty gritty, and they don't mind that a system is less powerful. They're like, who cares if it's less powerful? Let's see how much we can get out of it. And like Shinnen is the new version of that. Now Factor 5's gone. Now Shinnen is kind of the one company that does that kind of thing. So you can always kind of count on them to do something that's going to be like a good benchmark of the system and really kind of get into a bunch of stuff. Right now, the only thing they're not doing, that I'm surprised they're not doing, is they don't have a 120 FPS mode. And they've already hinted that that's going to come in a patch.
Yeah, that's going to come in a patch. It's interesting. I think the Fast game is interesting. It's fun. People compare it to F-Zero and Whiteout, but to me, it's only in the fact that like, it's a futuristic racing game. Playing it doesn't really...
It doesn't feel like F-Zero.
It does feel like F-Zero. It doesn't play like F-Zero. The cars are like really floaty and like really light feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tracks are like, there aren't a lot of like sharp turns. They're kind of...
Yeah, there's like a lot of...
They're long.
Straight,
the tracks are like long and stretched out, you know?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of straightaways. There's jumps. You can jump with your vehicle. Your vehicle is very fragile. If you clip something, you just explode.
There's a
lot of like obstacles.
The polarity system's pretty cool. It's kind of similar to like Ikaruga.
Yeah, where you got like these boost pads. They're red and blue, and you have to switch polarity as you approach them so that you get the boost. Because if you're like the wrong polarity,
it slows you down.
It slows you down. Yeah, you're penalized. So you have to like keep that in mind. It gets pretty tough. It's pretty challenging. I like it so far. I haven't played like a lot of it, but I enjoy it. It doesn't replace like a new F-Zero for me, but it's still cool to have like a really cool futuristic racer on the Switch.
Yeah, definitely. And it's beautiful.
Yes, it's gorgeous,
a really gorgeous
to look.
Game. Yeah. It's a good tech showpiece. It's like, that's kind of what you can always count on for Shinnen, if nothing else. Like, even if you don't like the game, it's going to be a good tech showpiece, at least. And when you get a new system at launch, that's when you kind of want stuff like that. You want to see what it's capable of. It's kind of like when you get a new phone or new computer.
Yeah, exactly.
You start, like, doing benchmarks left and right, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, my thing is, like, a new console, I always look for the game that's going to be, like, the graphics showcase. Even if it's a game I normally wouldn't be interested in, I just want to see the graphics. I want to see, okay, let's see what this puppy can do. And that's partially the reason I bought Cyberpunk. I was like, because I want to see what the Switch 2 is doing here. You know,
So that's kind of the main games we're talking about. You played a game that, did it have a patch or was it just one of the ones that managed to upgrade by the very nature of being on Switch 2? Which category did it fall into?
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had a patch.
Okay.
Yeah, it had a day one patch to upgrade it. And, it was a free patch, but the upgrades were significant. They added
a frame rate.
Yeah, they boosted the frame rate to 60 FPS, added HDR. I think it's like 1440p, might even be like 4K to it. It seems to have fixed a lot of bugs that were present in the game.
With the visuals of that game, it should be running in 8K, 120.
The graphics are still plain, but I played it and it was transformative. I played it and everything is smooth, silky, 60 FPS. There are things where the game would stutter, where it no longer stutters. It feels nice to play.
Yeah.
And it was it's such a huge step up. It's I played, it's how the hell was I tolerating this on the Switch 1? It feels so bad to play on the Switch.
Yeah.
But it feels so good here. I can't imagine ever going back.
As somebody who doesn't care about Pokemon at all, I did watch some videos of the Switch 2 stuff with that, as well as a bunch of other games, just because I was curious to see kind of some games that were a little bit, had more trouble on the Switch. I wanted to kind of see how they were running on Switch 2. Some of them had patches. Some of them, just by the very nature of being on Switch 2, just ran better, period. Bayonetta 3 is an example of that. Didn't have a patch, but just ran better. And it was interesting watching with Pokemon and watching comparisons because, man, that game was a mess. Not only was the frame rate atrocious, but it even had a separate, even lower frame rate for stuff in the background that was way worse. You could literally count the frames on it. You're 1, 2, literally 3 frames a second or something. You'd see a windmill in the background and it just looked really bad. And then the level of detail pop-in and stuff on the game was atrocious too. There's hardly anything on screen at a time and stuff would pop in right in front of you. And I was watching it going man, this is a mess. And then you see the Switch 2 version and none of that's there. It's all just there.
The pop-in's gone. You get more Pokemon spawn on the overworld now than on Switch 1.
Yeah.
Switch, you can see you have a lot more spawns now. It's a huge improvement. It's what the game needed. And it's so bad. It kind of makes it inexcusable the state the game was released in 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. Yeah, that's it. I didn't really play anything else. I played NSO. I played some F-Zero GX and some Soul Calibur 2 with Link, of course, because you have to pick Link when you're playing Soul Calibur 2 GameCube version. And, they were just as good as I remember them. The emulation for GameCube on Switch 2 seems solid. I didn't notice any issues. I didn't notice anything odd or weird with the emulation so far. I didn't extensively test these games. I played them for a couple minutes each. It seems solid so far. It's not like the N64 Switch Online, which there are tons of emulation issues. Booting, if you booted up Ocarina of Time when it launched, you notice, issues with the emulation, right off the bat. It didn't seem to be a problem. Those problems don't seem to exist here.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of stuff is just running really good. I've played all 3 of the games too, just a little bit. I just kind of launched into them to see what they were like. I didn't really put any serious time into any of them. But yeah, it runs very clean. It looks good. And they, like you said, it's pretty flawless emulation, but I'd say it's better than that because they are running at 4K.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
They're running very clean and the frame rates are a little bit better too, It's all 3 of those games I think had pretty decent frame rates to begin with, but now they're just running super clean. All of that seems fine. Like I said, I also checked out videos of stuff like Bayonetta 3. I have Bayonetta 3, but I didn't try it on the Switch 2, but I watched some videos of it, and it seems like it's kind of become a funny story where games that really cared about getting the performance right on the Switch, that would do things lock the frame rate down to 30, but make it really stable, those games, unless they're patched, aren't really running that much better on Switch 2 because they're locked. But the games that were really flawed, like Bayonetta 3, which was an uncapped frame rate, but it just bounced all over the damn place and was very inconsistent, now just is silky smooth.
Yeah.
So it's the games that didn't give a shit about performance are now performing way better than the games that did.
The only caveat is those games still run just like you're getting better frame rate because the frame rate's uncapped, so stuff like resolution and stuff hasn't changed. So like, Bayonetta on Switch 2 is not going to look any better on your TV than it did on Switch 1.
Yeah, God, that game had some frame rate issues, and now those are
yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, it's just kind of like an interesting little like meta story of this whole thing, that the games that really benefited were the ones that actually kind of needed it.
I still would like these games to get official patches so they can get features and stuff too,
Yeah, the resolution kind of drops on Bayonetta 3 a few times, and there's some other like dithering issues and stuff. It'd be nice to like just kind of take care of those with a patch.
Oh, for sure.
But man, like it's just kind of like it's funny that the games that needed it the most just kind of inherently benefited because they didn't have locked frame rates and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But that brings us to Mario Kart World. And that's what I think you and I both played the most of, so let's jump into that.
First off, what do you think of the open world? Because I know that's been getting mixed reception. A lot of people think there's not that much to do in it. I haven't played too much of it.
I played a bunch of it. I think driving in the free world feels so good because it doesn't penalize you like it does in the races. So like if you get hit by something, you just kind of flop around and just keep going.
I agree.
If you go off into the dirt, you don't slow down to a crawl. You go a little bit slower, but it's not like to a crawl.
I agree. I think exploration feels good. I don't know like how much like I ran into like a few P-Switch quests. You know, there's the hidden peach coins. There's their stuff.
The unlockables are weak.
Yeah, the unlockables are weak. I will say that. I get like wanting it to be more robust, but like this never was intended to be the main mode anyway. Like, it is just like a fun thing. I don't know, like, I don't mind it. It's cool. I think it's cool. I think I like driving around in the free roam mode, and that's like all I was like really expecting out of it anyway. So like,
it'd be fun to do it online with some people, you know, to go online and just kind of explore and hang out. And
yeah, if you could do it multiplayer, that'd be cool.
You can. I mean, we just haven't done that yet, but people have been doing that. I actually watched, like, there's a video I saw of like two guys that were doing that were like basically testing random shit out. Like, they were like, what happens if you drive into the dinosaur's mouth? Or what happens if you do this? Like, they were just testing all these like weird ideas that popped into their head. Like, they'd see something and go, oh, what would happen if you did that? And so they were doing it in free roam mode because it's easier to do that in free roam mode.
Grand Prix is Grand Prix. What do you think of Knockout Tour?
I haven't even played Knockout Tour yet.
Oh, you haven't played it yet?
I've done all the Grand Prix. Did you go through all the Grand Prix cups?
I haven't gone through all the cups yet, just a few of them. But like Knockout Tour is awesome because it's 6 separate tracks condensed into 6 laps. Like, it's kind of crazy, and it feels like one like giant course. It's kind of nuts. I love it. I did a few of the Grand Prix. I haven't done all of them yet.
The thing about the Grand Prix, they'll tell you that's just really cool. I mean, we already know the stuff about, like, you have to race to the next race or whatever. All that kind of stuff, yeah. But it sounds like it's more interesting in Knockout Tour the way they did that. But one thing that's really cool about Grand Prix is that there's only 7 cups when it starts. And then once you clear all 7 cups, you get this whole, like, long, really long cutscene of Rainbow Road getting unlocked. And not just Rainbow Road, but like the whole last cup getting unlocked.
Well, that's cool.
And it's like a whole cutscene. Like, it's like a whole moment. And it reminds me of like when I watched like the One Piece anime and when the characters made it to the Grand Line. Remember when I was telling you about that when we were watching the Netflix version of One Piece? I said like, oh, I was really hoping it would end with them getting the Grand Line because it was this huge moment where it just felt so exciting and like so adventurous and stuff. It felt like that. Like, it felt like Mario Kart's pulling a One Piece with like the idea of like, oh, you're gonna go on this grand adventure now, and they set up this whole like long cutscene to kind of get you excited, and you could see this things racing through the sky, and it was showing different racers on karts looking up into the sky and excitement, and it's like, oh wow, something special's coming. And then you get to the tracks and they're all really good, but then you get to Rainbow Road, and Rainbow Road is like 5 different Rainbow Roads.
Yeah, which
like
is
you
cool.
go from one type of Rainbow Road to another type of Rainbow Road to another. It just feels like this grand adventure. It's really cool.
Yeah, which is nice. No, but I'm enjoying Mario Kart World so far. So like, I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to playing more.
Have you unlocked Gentleman King Boo yet?
I have not. Like, there's still like a lot I have to do in the game. So, but I've been enjoying it. Yeah, that's my take on the Switch 2 so far.
Yeah, that's me too. It's good. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I see some people complaining about there not being like a really big single player game or something. They're just not from Nintendo. I mean, Cyberpunk's a huge game, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Play Cyberpunk if you haven't played it. Yeah, exactly. And also like Donkey Kong's coming out in like a couple weeks, so just like hold your horses. There's gonna be like like a big Nintendo published single player game coming very soon.
Yeah, and play fucking Mario Kart, goddammit.
And Mario Kart has enough to do in single player. Yeah, you can keep yourself entertained.
Yeah.
Like, you can play Grand Prix, you can try to get all the stars in all the Grand Prix, like, you can do all that single player, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, or you can just, like, explore the world and kind of just race around. And like I said, people are complaining about the open world part just because and I get it, like, there's not too terribly much to do. There's a lot of challenges, actually, and stuff like that. The problem isn't so much that there isn't stuff to do, it's that the rewards are so slim. Like, you get one of those P-challenges, the P-switch challenges, and you just get a sticker. That's all you get. So you're not, like, unlocking a lot of stuff, but there actually is a lot of stuff to do. And it's just really fun to race around without, like, any consequences. There's just something about the freedom of movement. And that's like a Mario thing, like Mario games have always just felt really good to control. Like, there's just something about, like, controlling that plumber, It just feels good to, like, move around the world and jump around and play around and stuff. And that's kind of what free roam feels like to me. It just feels like, oh, I'm just like it's free roam. It's not a single player campaign. It's just free roam. It's exactly what it says it is. You can just scrape around wherever you want and no consequences and just have fun and try crazy drifts and jump over cars and do all sorts of weird shit.
Absolutely, for sure.
That is our Switch 2 experiences, though, so tell us what your Switch 2 experiences are if you're gonna write in like nobody ever has. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing some more and looking forward to when Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out and when some other stuff starts coming out and we start getting even some more games and more Switch 2 editions and more GameCube games and all that stuff. I'm looking forward to all of it. So I'm hoping everybody else is too, but you can stay tuned. Next week, we are going to be doing the Baba Yaga Effect 4. So those of you who maybe don't know, this will be the fourth one we've done. Basically, we decided when we decided to do John Wick, to cover John Wick on the podcast, we said we could just cover it like we'd normally do a thing, or we could just really go into the impact that the movie has had on other action movies of that type. And we just kind of turned it into a series, and we've paired up one John Wick movie with some other movie that's either inspired by it or kind of has some similarities to it. And we've gone through that 3 times, and now John Wick 4. We're going to cover that and Bullet Train for Baba Yaga Effect 4, which we're doing next week. So if you want to watch those, John Wick 4 is on Peacock and Bullet Train, I believe, is on Max. So you can check those out and pay attention, listen with us next week when we talk about those 2 movies. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at FoxoHero. Same handles for Blue Sky. You can also go to our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container store for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the bottom paragraph. You'll find all the relevant links to our social accounts, our RSS feed, our YouTube page. It's all there. If you go to our YouTube page, you can see all of the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as our past podcast and other content that we've done throughout the years through several websites. It's all there, so you can check that out there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast plan of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.